Before starting with the presentation of this contribute, I'd like to underline the perspective from which the subject, literature, electronic literature, digital literature, or new media writing, has been approached and the aim of this research. Regarding the perspective, this is pedagogical, with a specific attention to the European cultural system that, due to its ancient history, seems to have more hesitation in accepting electronic literature as a literary expression worthy to be included in national curricula. Regarding the aim of this work, its purpose is to give, firstly, an insight of the possibilities and the potentialities of electronic literature in pedagogical context, and secondly, to offer suggestions of how to teach electronic literature and how to use it as a pedagogical resource. Thus, in this contribute, I will speak about the necessity of a process of formalization, which is the condition required to introduce and to adopt e-literature in traditional didactic contexts. The proposal of a pedagogical theory without which it's not possible to develop any efficient didactic technology, and the proposal of a possible pedagogical methodologies that could efficiently exploit the potentialities of electronic literature, especially in e-learning environments. If we have a look at the current state of electronic literature, we can easily affirm that a growing commitment has been shown by the scientific community in the last decade. Many organizations, universities, and research groups have been working actively in the field, helping to spread literature both in academic environments and in not strictly traditional cultural systems. On the other hand, we cannot affirm so easily that e-literature has been accepted by the traditional and official cultural system as an important cultural phenomenon to deal with. Except some specific valuable cases at the present day in museums, libraries, let me say it's unusual to find exhibition or section dedicated to electronic literature. Furthermore, in school and universities, it's really rare to find e-literature courses, and even more rare to find courses which adopt e-literature as a pedagogical resource. Why a process of formalization? We need a process of formalization that makes literature an official literary expression, and so a subject that can be included in national curricula, so allowing educators to teach literature in traditional context and to exploit its pedagogical potentialities. This is a delicate issue. Due to the connotation, formalization often doesn't have a positive connotation, and the domain electronic literature is, by definition, a borderland. But formalization, in this context, formalization doesn't mean to constrain literature in strict borders or to pervert its nature. Formalization means to give a literature the possibility to be accepted by the traditional cultural system, offering tools suitable for this aim. Which are these tools? They are theoretical and practical tools, able to analyze, typify, classify, and evaluate digital literary expressions to help the understanding of the aesthetic of digital literature, understanding required for the development of a common aesthetical taste that has the conditions sine qua non. It's not possible to establish a canon and to create a new notion of literariness, without which, again, it's not possible for literature being officialized, and so being included into national curricula and used for pedagogical purposes. Why establish a canon? Establish a canon is the first step to formalize electronic literature and to use it in formal didactic context, having the canon an important educational function. The canon indeed represents what is considered normatively suitable to be taught in a specific historical period. belonging to the canon has always meant a guarantee of quality, according to George Landau. This is the reason why, in educational context, curriculum makers select works belonging to an existing canon, being the canon the result of the aesthetical taste of a particular community in a specific time. Aesthetic taste that produces the selection of seminal works worthy to be canonized. The practice of selecting works that abide by this common taste and collect them officially is another extremely important tool. To anthologize new literary forms means to institutionalize a literary phenomenon, because to be in anthology is to have achieved not greatness, but what is more important, certain status, according to George Landau. Furthermore, being institutionalized also means being recognized by the traditional educational system, and so in turn being worthy to be included into national curricula. This is the way the European Literature Collection is following. The ELC aims to provide an essential tool to assist and formalize electronic literature in Europe. Let's see the main feature of the ELC. The focus on the specific European framework. ELC collects only European works with the aim to characterize a specific European digital literary environment. The attention to the linguistic issue, considering the linguistic diversity in Europe, all the reviews will be published in the major European languages. The attention to the PAD issue, all the works, will be loaded and stored on the ELC server indefinitely to be freely read, and the user-friendly design. The ELC is designed to be easily used by anyone, including those people who have no confidence with the digital literature. Why an European collection? Firstly, to provide a practical tool to help the process of formalization in Europe, where there are different issues to face compared to other countries. Secondly, to provide a tool to exploit the potentialities of electronic literature as a pedagogical resource. In Europe, indeed, there are about 70 different languages, with co-editors and translators in 7 European countries: Italy, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, France, Spain, and Ireland, and by providing all the textual material, biographies, reviews, and so forth, the major European languages, the ELC wants to provide an appropriate tool to make literature easily accessible in a continent with a so great variety of different languages. In Europe, there are also many authors belonging to several cultural niches unknown to the international community. This is the case of many Italian authors whose works are not yet collected in any anthology. I think of Roberto Gilli, Caterina D'Alinio, Fabrizio Palaciano, Enrico Colombini, Filippo Rosso, Marco Cetera. With active collaborators in several European countries, the ELC tries to reach these niches effectively to provide to the international community valuable authors yet unknown. After the first step of the ELC project, that's to say selection, evaluation, and publication, some specific feature will be added to help educators to adopt literature in didactic context. The works suitable to be used as a pedagogical resources to develop, to support, or to improve specific skills in students will be properly tagged to help educators to identify and to use them. The collection will be supplied with a pedagogical theory and example of didactic practices based on traditional and e-learning methodologies to help educators to develop a proper instructional design. With the process of formalization in progress as it is, it's not only possible to speak about the modalities to teach electronic literature, but it also makes sense to think about it as a pedagogical resource. In this respect, the question is, If it's possible to teach with and inside the new media, is it also possible to teach with and inside the new media writing or literature? If we take into account the current didactic practice that use new media as a pedagogical resource, we see that new media can offer a useful learning environment that can support learning activities thanks to the affordances, which are able to reconfigure the process of mediation, and thanks to the embodiment which takes place inside the digital environments with the building of a new personal digital identity. According to these didactic practices, using new media as learning environment foster the experiential learning, which seem to meet the learning styles of the new generation according to Owen Stroud, stimulating the process of knowledge building. The European project New Nation is one of these didactic examples, and it has shown that teaching within inside MUBs can support learning activities. Let's see. This is in second line. Okay, I think it's all right. So here we have the students that who through their avatars attend a lesson in communication with the teacher in the middle and a common interface in the back. Now, the answer to the previous question is clearly affirmative. Yes, it's possible to teach with and inside new media writing. New media writing is based on new media to express its artistic potentialities, sharing with it some common features. That's to say, the action of remediation, the process of embodiment, the active interaction, the digital environment, the multisensorial involvement, and the emotional participation. New media writing has some specific features, both typical of traditional literary forms and of innovative digital literary ones. That's to say, the cognitive support provided by the narrative according to Liz Ming, and the manner that digital literary expression seems to meet the emerging cognitive style of the new generations, according to Catherine Hills. Let's see some meaningful example of the pedagogical potentiality of new media writing. Well, there is the historical example of Michael Joyce's English 101, used to teach creative writing using the constructivist hypertext, the Victorian Web by George Landon, suitable to teach Victorian literature using creative hypertextual modalities, Cave by Robert Coover to help learning activities through the use of the virtual reality, Dark by J. Bolter, used to help learning activities through the use of the digital art, and the Lead Hypertext project by Astrid Anslin used to teach foreign languages through creative hypertext. This project has shown that new media writing can be considered an effective didactic technology. Adopting new media writing, indeed, in didactic context, can stimulate cognitive processes, and using it in a proper pedagogical framework can even support learning processes, improving intrinsic motivation and deep learning. Let's see other example of how to use literature as a pedagogical resource. Lexia to Perplexia can be used to teach Greek mythology in the context of information technology, as well as the 12th level of an internet user by Sergio Bouchardoni. Lexia to Perplexia can be also used to educate to the concept of the media writing itself, and the 12th level of internet user to educate the use of the web. And the last example is Project for Takisto School by William Panston, that can be used to help to build bridges between explicit and implicit learning, according to Catherine Hills. Now, ELiterature can indeed be used as a real didactic technology. Why? Because it provides cognitive stimuli that seem to offer interesting advantages in the learning process. That's to say, it demands the user to adopt different capacities together, mixed in an unusual way. It offers an active perspective, perceptive experiences previously unthinkable. It merges semiotic system in ways previously not possible, fostering new connection between ideas and emotions. It stimulates the decision-making that traditional linear reading processes usually do not provide, fostering a process of deep thinking. It offers appealing modalities for the knowledge-building process, taking advantage of the artistic and interactive features. It also stimulates the learning by doing with new informal and playful modalities, fostering multi-semic, multimodal, multi-sectoral intellectual stimulation, providing multiple knowledge configurations, and by offering a creative, dynamic, active interaction. Teaching the literature and using it as a pedagogical resource clearly demand a proper pedagogical framework. This respect, if we consider that the digital medium is an important part of the aesthetic of the literature works, and that the medium is typified by the action of remediation between the message and the addressee. If we consider that the dynamic organic interaction between human beings and machine that typify the literature work is a sort of cognitive movement between digital and analogic cognizer, according to Catherine Hales, and if we consider that the literature works are often typified by what Italo Calvino used to define combinatory process, and what Umberto Eco calls openness of a literary work, well, a pedagogical framework based on the concept of movement as the post-constructivism could be very appropriate for the pedagogy of electronic literature. According to this innovative approach to the traditional constructivism, that's to say the post-constructivism, it underlines the importance of the knowledge process over the knowledge object, sometimes even to the detriment of the knowledge object itself. It shifts the real attention from the knowledge built to the action of building, with less concern with the final knowledge object. And it puts the focus on the process, on the motion, on the bridges between knowledge and learner, according to Lesch and Durr. Now, it's not a coincidence that the post-constructivism has many analogies with what the French philosopher Jacques Derrida called the movement of difference. That's to say, the theory that considers the origin of the words not in the reference, but in the endless movement between signifiers and signifieds. And it's not a coincidence that the post-constructivism has many analogies with what the German philosopher Sigmund Schmidt calls procedural literary system, a theory that considers the central object of learning and teaching a procedural literary system rather than an objectified literary body. Teaching the literature and using it as a pedagogical resource also demands the proper methodological framework. If the main features of the literature are the digital medium used as an aesthetical device, the hybridity of the semiotic system, the ergodicity of the interaction, the modularity of its expressions, well, e-learning seems a good solution to teach literature and to teach with and inside it. Platform as Moodle, modular object-oriented dynamic learning environments, long name, represent an interesting choice to teach literature. This kind of course management system are designed on the constructivist theory, are multimedia interacting and programmable, and provide high flexibility and modularity. Thanks to these features, they are suitable to create a synergy between electronic literature works and digital teaching practices, both in online learning and blended learning. In this respect, let's have a look at the NLE. The narrative learning environments are e-learning environments where stories interactively created by user and system have a central role in facilitating learning. They are hypermedia environments where the user interacts in a non-trivial way with the system to generate a consistent narrative. This kind of NLEs are used to foster narrative, creative logic, and problem-solving skills in the user or in the student. The concept behind such program is the same that we find in a typical literature domain, that's to say, the interactive drama or the interactive fiction. Let's see some example. Theatrics is an narrative learning environment based on artificial intelligence, three-dimensional interface, and interactivity. The aim is to help students to create collaborative digital narratives and to stage them. Theatrics fosters the development of narrative and creative skills according to the creators. Carmen's Bracket AS, this is a good example. It's an interactive pedagogical drama based on artificial intelligence. The aim is to help, again, the user to develop problem-solving skills to face a serious sickness. Its generative narrative recalls the famous facade.
Carmen, I asked you to come in because when I saw you in the hallway, you looked so overwhelmed and tired. Can you tell me what's going on with you?
I've just got a lot on my mind right now.
Remember that program I told you about before?
Mm-hmm. Bright ideas, right?
Yes. Well, that's our way of helping you solve your problems.
I think I'm really just worried about Jimmy.
Jimmy's sick with a serious disease. Cancer is definitely something to be worried about. But it'll be easier for Jimmy to get well if you're better able to handle the stress.
Okay, I guess.
Are you having other problems at home or work?
This is the typical interface of
I'm upset about Diana's tantrum last night. I just lost my temper. I shouldn't have hit Diana. I know it's not her fault. I know all of this is affecting her, but her outbursts just make it harder for me.
All right.
You're really feeling overwhelmed right now.
Another good example is MediaStage. MediaStage is a narrative learning environment based on three-dimensional interface and interactivity. The aim is to help the students to create digital narrative environments, forms in digital environment, and electronic learning methodologies, providing to the former the advantage to have at their disposal a proper platform, course management system to be taught and learned. And to the latter, it gives possibility to exploit the added value offered by the educational potentialities of the arts. Which are these potentialities of the arts? The educational potentialities of the arts are in their ability to provide aesthetical or emotional satisfaction, according to this meaning. In their ability to shock and inspire, to change vision, ideas, and feelings, according to Andrew Steeves, and in their ability to foster consciousness in the reader through cognitive stimuli and aesthetic effects, according to Astrid Anslinger. So, in this framework, many possibilities can be explored, both to teach literature with a proper pedagogical framework and theory, and to use it as a pedagogical resource. Thank you for your attention.